How are we doing, everyone, this afternoon? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. Welcome back to the channel. This is United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean. Apologies if I come off tired, and I didn't sleep all that well last night, and I got a little bit of a migraine going on in my eye, so I'm just happy to sit in front of a bright light for the next hour or so. So it's all good. I'm here. You guys are here. We're going to push through it and inflict even more pain as we discuss this match. Newcastle versus Manchester United at Old Trafford pretty much went as expected. Honestly, it's getting to the point where I don't even really need to look at who we're playing. Like I just don't. I just know that United's not going to show up on the day, and we're going to struggle. We're going to get outplayed. We're going to get outworked. We're going to get out physical, whatever you want to fill that blank with. That's what's going to happen because it's what we're used to. And that's why I entitled the video, the acceptance stage, because we're kind of at that stage. After Bournemouth, after Wolves, it was a lot of anger. I've skipped right past denial, right past bargaining, and gone right to acceptance. This is just what it is. And what it is shit. But also, this is why I don't do my reactions on the same day, because it could go a lot worse if I try to do them on the same day. Danny in the house, how are you? My PIC in the scouting department, man. How are you doing? I got a big some South American scouting videos coming up. Been looking at a lot of South Americans. I did see your comment. Danny, I might just have you jump on one of these days and just have you be in charge of my South American players. How's that sound, bud? um, but like I said, I'm not as angry as I was after the Wolves match because, again, I've skipped bargaining, I've skipped depression, I've jumped right to acceptance. I'm done accepting any more from these players. I'm done expecting any more from this squad. I'm just done. Like what? I'm like I don't have words. There's not a word big enough to describe just what I feel when I watch these players, when I think about these players, when I look at like anything else that has to do with these players. There's not a word big enough for that right now. They are just beyond frustrating, beyond disappointing. It's ridiculous. Everybody's jumping in. Bandomac, good to see you, my friend. How are you doing? Everybody, let me know how you're doing today. Pearl, welcome back, Pearl. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year 2025, guys. We've already rung in the new year here in Singapore. Coming to me from Singapore. Awesome. Yeah, still not quite there for me. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon for me, so we'll get there. And Vishwa, hello from Malaysia. Man, I love it. Connecting people across the world. Thank you guys for stopping by today. Danny B says, I think we're seriously considering Juan Jimenez. Yeah, I saw that you put that down. I was looking him up a little bit. I got a lot of these South American players. As in between videos, because you guys know I'll throw in a little mini scout report every now and I have a lot ready to go in the chamber. I just, wait to do them until, we have a time to do that. So as far as the stages of grief go, I'll wait for those of you who are still in denial or anger stages. You guys catch up to me. But until then, we are going to revisit the match. We're going to inflict some more pain on ourselves against every shred and ounce of mental and emotional self-preservation in me right now. I'm going to revisit this match. We're going to do the match reaction because I want to know what you guys thought, what you guys were feeling, what your thoughts were on the performance. So we're going to start with a little bit of transfer news, and then we're going to dump into the match. So hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit the bell so you guys don't miss out on anything that's popping up. And let's get this over with. We'll start with the big positives. So before we do anything, I do believe birthday celebrations are in order. So let's all take a moment to wish a very happy birthday to the greatest manager of all time, Sir Alex Ferguson, who turned 83. I wish he turned 23. I have here in a heartbeat. He turned 83 today. So New Year's Eve, Sir Alex Ferguson's birthday. I would say that I wish we had a prime Sir Alex right now on the touchline, but I don't even know if he'd be able to get a tune from these bluffers. These guys are just ridiculous. Who am I kidding? If he were on the touchline, 21 would be in the bag, right? Come on. Who am I kidding? But in any case, happy birthday to the GOAT, Sir Alex. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a City fan, or they just have never watched football, or they're about 15 years old. So, which is City fans. So in any case, happy birthday, Sir Alex. 83 years young, still going strong. Appreciate everything you've done for this club. A lot of us grew up watching the United that you had underneath, your leadership, and we have a lot of great memories from that. So, moving on to some transfer news. We do have some reports coming in from a few Spanish outlets that Real Betis have apparently asked United for Antony on loan in January. And this is coming from journalist Mateo Gonzalez. I have no problem with Antony going on loan in terms of getting him off the books, but there has to the goal has to be getting him off the books. If there's an obligation to buy at the end of that loan, like Jadon Sancho, then I don't have a problem with it. But again, the problem is our squad is so thin right now that even someone like Antony, who none of us would probably put in the starting 11 on any day of the week, that still means we're down a man. And this is also my problem, is we have a lot of subpar players that need to be moved on, but the problem is we have a lot of subpar players. Our squad is filled with subpar players. And yes, they need to be sold or moved on or whatever it is, but what does that leave us with? Again, we're still left. Unless we do something in the market, it's not going to work. Anomac, it took Fergie a few years to turn the team around. Yeah, it did take Fergie 2 years. Can you imagine what it would have been like if Twitter had been around back then? Yikes. But again, this is what the situation that Ineos have found themselves in. Another mess created by the Glazers that Ineos now has to clean up, and it's not going to be quick. If we lose Rashford, we lose Eriksen, Casemiro, Malacia, Dalot, Shaw, Evans, Maguire, Mount, Lindelof. If we lose any of these, let alone all these, who are what a lot of people think should be moving up the door, we have to replace them. We just can't not, and that's the problem. A lot of these players are going to be gone for free, but that means we still have to buy them. And so it's just money. It doesn't help us to get a lot of these players off the books because we have to replace them, and to replace them, we have to spend the money. We don't have the money to do that right away, which makes me think that even a clear out is going to take a while. So it is what it is. Rasta Stocks, welcome to the channel, my friend. Majority of the players we have are scrubs. Yeah, they are, man. It's embarrassing. Rasta says, I don't see us doing anything in the transfer window unless we sell. Yeah, I think we have to sell. It's just not going to work. Otherwise, even Amorim said kind of the same thing, right? Bandomag Ragnick said the team needed open heart surgery. Looks like it's finally going to happen. We'll see. It's hard. It's one of those things where you can say a player's garbage, but at the same time, how are you supposed to sell a player that's garbage, right? It just can't happen. So just moving on my notes here. So another player potentially leaving is Casemiro, and this is coming from United Muppeteers. The outlet claims that clubs in the MLS are actually looking at Casemiro. Could be a good fit, I think, for him in the MLS. I do think the Saudi League's probably going to be better for him. I thought I read some rumors that Al Nassr are maybe looking at him. I know Al Nassr are letting go of Talisca, so they're going to have a spot open for a foreign player. MLS is in its off season right now, so it would be kind of a preseason for Casemiro. I think they pick back up in March. I doubt I'm the only one who's ready to see Casemiro go. I like Casemiro at Real Madrid. I wanted him at United for the longest time. He was decent for us in his first season. It's just hasn't been great, and he's still on. He's got a couple years left in the contract. He's on big wages. He's older, and we saw unless he's got someone next to him doing the running, it doesn't work. So I know I had him in my starting 11 against Newcastle when we did the match preview, but it's because we had no other options, and I definitely didn't have Eriksen next to him. So what do you guys think on Casemiro? Would you let him go? Rasta says, I would say let's use players from the academy, but at the same time, are they ready? I would argue that a few of them are ready personally, but not the ones that a lot of people will probably like. I don't think Amos is ready physically, but I think some players could be. Danny says, we need to break some rules. Not sold on this FFP propaganda. Ineos have money. They do, but it's Ineos. It's not just Ineos that have money. Ineos came so FFP, PSR, you've got a 3-year cycle, right? You're only allowed to spend 100 on top of what you earn and stuff. The problem is we don't sell any players. And so it's not just that Ineos have the money. It's that sometimes they're not allowed to spend it if we've already spent that 100 without getting money in from sales, if that makes sense. Now, this past summer helped, but it's still, we were already in such a negative place with as far as PSR, FFB is concerned. There's not a whole lot. This is why people don't get about the Qatari thing. Like, it doesn't matter how rich your owner is. yeah, they can do a lot in terms of debt and stadiums and whatnot, but in terms of players and managers, because sacking a manager impacts your PSR and your FFP as well. It's all included. Like you can still only spend 100 mil over over a 3-year period. That's what you can do. And so I don't think that it's, we don't have access to the book, so I don't know, but it's just like, this is the shit that they inherited. Danny says, I don't want to see Casemiro Eriksson here in February. I will be pissed. It's if they leave in January, their options are going to be limited because someone's going to have to pay for them if they leave in January. If Eriksson leaves in the summer, he can go anywhere he wants to because he can go for free. So it's a matter of how badly do we want their wages off the books. How much of a loss? I did the math. Remember in the summer, like it's going to cost like 18 million a year in wages alone to have Casemiro. Do you just bite the bullet and get him out of here so you're not paying this? Banamac, the 10-point deduction would be worth it if the team could actually win games. Yeah, it could be a thing where you just, ask for forgiveness and just do the thing, right? What does it matter? Bishop, we need 4 players in the left wing back, number 8, number 10, number 9. They can consider loans and free transfers to see through this season with experience and depth. Top of this, promote a few youth players. Yeah, there are bargains to be out there, especially in January. I did that video last week on January bargains. A lot of players who are in their off season in January or who will be free in the summer. I went through a couple positions. You guys can go ahead and check that video out if you want. Danny said, scouts or the recruitment team need sacked if we don't get Nipan. If we don't get Nipan, who is literally coming, he's basically just flirting with us. He's basically been twerking for us all over the place. There's posters of United in his dressing room. He said in an interview, I'm a United fan, and he's interviewing, if we don't get Nipan, something's wrong. Seriously. Vishwa says, we can't change the whole team in Jan. No, we can't, but we can strengthen it. And whether that's bringing in some players like Nipan, someone who's not expensive, maybe. And really, for me, it's more about addition by subtraction. Like, who can we get off the books? Who can we get out of the dressing room? It's about changing the culture, changing the mentality. And to do that, you have to change individuals. So sometimes strengthening is not about buying, but maybe just about selling, if that makes sense. So moving on here. Chris Wheeler reported today that, I feel like a news anchor is really weird. Chris Wheeler reported today that United have sent scouts to watch Porto's match against Boa Vista in the Premier Liga, particularly with an eye on their 20-year-old striker Samu, as well as left back Francisco Mora, but I don't think Mora played. So could be looking at more strikers. I like Samu. I don't know what another 20-year-old striker is going to do when we already have a bunch of young attackers. We need experience. We need someone who can teach them a little bit, who already knows certain things, who we won't have to... I love Højlund. You guys know I love Højlund. You guys know that I'll back him because he's young. He has a lot of really good qualities. He's still learning, but he wasn't supposed to be leading the line. I don't see what another 20-year-old striker does other than just maybe give us another option. You guys let me know. Danny says Varela. Don't get my hopes up, man. Don't get my hopes up on Varela. Sticking with Chris Wheeler. Apparently, youngster James Scanlon is attracting loan interest, and it is understood that both United and the players' side are open to a loan move, provided it's a good fit for Scanlon and he gets the game time. Remember, that's a big part of what I said the other day about loaning out youngsters. You have to make sure they're getting the game time. What's the point of the loan if they're not? Same with why, if you're bringing Kakonki in and he's just hanging out with the squad and stuff and he's not getting minutes, or Collier too, for that matter, what's the point? Let's give him some minutes. But if James Scanlon, he's a very good midfielder. His numbers are excellent for their under 18s. I like Scanlon a lot. Same with Amas. Collier's been linked with loans and stuff in January. If they're on that cusp of maybe too good for the academy, not quite good enough for the first team, send them down to the championship, send them down to League One or something. Let them go, send them to the Eredivisie or the Bundesliga or something. Youngsters do great in the Eredivisie. Let them get minutes, and then we can see what's going on. If either they're gonna do really well, they'll come back, they'll fit right in seamlessly, or they'll do all right. Maybe we're not convinced, and we sell them for a low fee with a sell-on clause, like we've done with a couple players. That's a big part of, I think, why we're buying so many youngsters. Is not all of them are going to make it, and we know that, but we're going to try, and if they do, great. If not, we'll make some money off them. It's not that hard. And then what we got here? So Pete Hall, he's adding fuel to the Nuno Mensch fire. He says Nuno Mendes wants to join United right now as talks with PSG have stalled. We've talked a little bit about Nuno Mendes already. You guys know my feelings a little bit on it. If he's fit, he's excellent. His hamstring issues, where he missed pretty much all of 22-23 season with a hamstring injury, Nuno Mendes. I'm not excited about that. Mostly that has more to do with our medical department than anything. Like I said, if you walk by the medical department and you like just cough or something as a player, they're like, "Oh, it's nice knowing you, bro. You're about to die." Our medical department sucks. But if you guys haven't yet chimed in with your thoughts on Nuno Mendes, go ahead and feel free to do so in the chat. But that's just coming from Pete Hall. Apparently he wants to join us. So we'll see. I also am not too keen on a player who can't, if he wants more than what PSG are able to offer. I wonder what that means in terms of what we're going to offer in terms of wages. I hope we don't sit there and blow out like the wage bill just for someone like that. And then rounding out the transfer news here, big news coming from Fabrizio Romano today as well regarding the futures of Dani Olmo and Pau Victor, Barcelona players. We talked about that a long time the other day. Barcelona got extensions on those two players, thankfully due to like injuries and whatnot and taking over wages. They appealed. The appeal was rejected. They have now been unable to be registered as Barcelona players. And Barcelona have just a few more hours to try to get permission to try to appeal. They lost the first appeal. They lost the second appeal. Romano reports that a second court has rejected Barcelona's appeal. So again, few hours to go or they're going to risk losing these players. You guys let me know what you think about Dani Olmo. He looked good at the Euros. He's been decent. I wasn't super convinced when he was at Leipzig. He's got a little bit of injury issues. As in, like Vishwas saying, I hope they don't sign any more injury-prone players. Yeah, and again, like it took me all of a couple minutes on Google as far as looking at like hamstring injuries and long-term repercussions to figure out like, now if a player's got such and such many hamstring injuries, they don't just get better. They're going to get worse and they're going to be long-term. Like, why didn't our medical staff look at these players like Mason Mount or whatever? But I've also been wrong. Like, I was worried about De Ligt. I was worried about Mazraoui, both of whom have had some injury issues. So it was why I'm so reserved about Alphonso Davies as well, some injury issues. So it is what it is. Danny says on Olmo, give him a 2-year deal. And that's the hard part. I go back and I'm so torn on Dani Olmo because like we looked at his stats, like his defensive numbers are actually pretty good. He does put in a ship off the ball. Obviously he's creative. He's a playmaker. He's a good age. He can be a leader. And he plays in a position that we need a player right now. We need more help higher up the pitch. I think he comes in, he takes over one of those 10 spots, and he could do a good job for us, I think. Mount's always injured. Eriksen doesn't have the legs. And I think Ahmad's just better at right wing back than he is at number 10, personally. But it's just a matter of the injuries for me. Maybe not a long deal, but you wonder if he would want to stay here long term. Maybe it's just a loan. Maybe we just take him on a loan or something. I don't know, but we'll see. But Barca can't pay the wages anyway, so it wouldn't really make sense, I guess, in that regard. But you guys let me know what you think about Dani Olmo. I know he's kind of divisive, but I always like to look at the other stuff besides like goals, assists, and just how good he is. You have to look at medical history, especially at United, especially with our medical staff. You have to look at the injury record, and like first and foremost, because it doesn't take much for our players to get injured. I mean, Licha was like never injured and then missed like a whole season with just random injuries. Casemiro long term, like we just are so cursed. All right, moving on. Let me get a sip of water here. So let's jump on to the match because we put it off for long enough. We can only avoid it for so long, right? Starting with the team selection, starting 11, because I've got thoughts. I know you guys probably have thoughts. Please hit that like button if you haven't yet. Please subscribe if you are new. I want to know what you thought of the team selection. Casemiro, Eriksen in the pivot while Ugarte was out, and boy, did we miss Ugarte's legs. I mean, if you like in a lab combined Casemiro and Eriksen, they still wouldn't be half of what Ugarte offers when he's there by himself. Like, two players who are already slow and have a combined age of 64 aren't going to keep up with most midfields in this league, let alone Newcastle's midfield. Not the right call. Now, if you remember, I had both starting in my preview, but I had Eriksen in the number 10, which is where he ended up getting moved to. And I had, I think I put Mainu next to Casemiro. And Mainu was excellent. Xerxes and Hoyland started together. I know that at the beginning of the season, a lot of us were talking about that opportunity. Xerxes and Ahmad took over in the 10s. And Amorim said before the match, he wanted more presence in the box. So that's probably why Xerxes got the start. Obviously, that plan backfired within a half hour. Delit back, but you could kind of tell he was a little sick. Maguire, Leach got the armband with Bruno being out. So the cool thing was Kakonki and Collier both in the squad. I was really had the match gone differently. It could have been, it's one of those things. If we were winning 2-0 with like 15 minutes to go, maybe you would have seen one of them get minutes. It's one of those things where a lot of people will say, like, I don't want them to get their confidence hurt by bringing them on in that situation. Honestly, the match was lost after that first goal win, and if you really want to be honest with ourselves about it, let's be real. Major talking point, though, in the starting 11 and the matchday squad was the return of Marcus Rashford to the squad. I want to know your thoughts on Marcus Rashford being included in the squad after being gone for 2 weeks. Was that the right call? Was it just a numbers thing? We just needed bodies. Was there somebody else who could have taken that spot? And he didn't get minutes, so that says it as well. But I want to know what you thought of that. Are you on board with it? I think there's a chance we might have seen Rashford play his last game for this club, and it was just interesting that he was in the squad and didn't get minutes. So interesting. First half, obviously, didn't go very well. It didn't take very long for the whole thing to kind of just unravel. And we didn't even show up. Newcastle had 11 shots in the first half. We had 3. 9 of their shots were on target. We only had 4. They had 16 touches in our box in the first half and nearly XG of 2. We had 0.17 in XG. If you look at our duels for the first half, we were better in terms of the defensive work, the duels, the tackles, interceptions, but you wouldn't have known. You would never have said, like, we're the better side watching the game. And it didn't really make a difference at winning. The problem is we weren't moving the ball, so we kept just giving the ball away, which meant that it was just attack versus defense. So again, stat padding in the most pointless, useless way, really. We were just happy to give away the ball so we can give ourselves another opportunity to tackle or make an interception. That's literally the story of the first half. Danny said, should have put Dan Gore on the bench, left Rashford at home. There's a lot of players we could have put on the bench. Ennis could have been on there, Mentato, Obi Martin. Danny says, I turned off when Rasmus missed that half chance. Yeah, he was. We'll talk about that moment as well, because he was running, the little bastard, but the one good chance he gets, and his first touch just took it wide, and then he just gave himself a lot of work to do. And it was a good shot, and it was a good save. He forced the save. It is what it is. It's that first touch. It's always the first touch that gets you. We've seen it with Rashford. We've seen it with a lot of attackers. You got to get that first touch so key. If it goes too heavy forward, and most of all, it's too wide. It puts you too wide, and then the opportunity is gone. But as far as numbers go, on an individual level, it was just poor all around. Players who started the season well are dropping pretty much to the level of their subpar teammates. The people their teammates who are struggling are bringing them down. Ahmad Mazraoui, you can't argue they've declined in recent weeks. They've at least lost their potency. I definitely, like I said, think Ahmad is better as a wingback. Options are limited at the moment, though. I need Mazraoui to stop trying to dribble through 3 opponents in his own half, especially around his own box. I've said this many times. He lost the ball just 3 minutes into the game because he's trying to do that, and this happens time and time again. And we'll have to have a chat about Mazraoui at some point. I don't need to go too in detail today, but he's struggling, whether it's fatigue, whether it's do we have to ask the hard question, like, does he have a spot in the system? We're going to talk about that, but he looks a little like he doesn't know, right? At least right now, what I'm seeing, it's like he doesn't know how to defend. He's getting spun. He's getting too tight to his man, and he's getting spun and left behind. And he doesn't know where to go. He's constantly kind of getting in the way. He was getting in Mainu's way a lot, and Ahmad's way a lot yesterday. Like, he was getting high up the pitch. He was moving into that number 10 position. There were points where you could literally throw a blanket, cover both him and another one of his teammates, because he just was getting in everyone's way. It was like we don't have any idea what to do at all. First goal goes in. Delit's not marking anybody. He's marking space. Licha, many times, just sitting, marking nobody when we're up. Like, what are you doing? They're just marking 20 yards of space. Mazraoui not putting enough pressure on the wingers. Both crosses for Newcastle's goals came from his spot. Again, if we're going to go in on Dallo for this, like we've done many, many times, we have to go in on Mass for this. She's just not doing enough to put pressure on that delivery into the box. And as a result, Gordon had nothing but time and space to pick exactly where he wanted to put that. I'm not saying Mizraoui is a bad footballer. I love Mizraoui. You guys know I've said he's been one of our best players this season, but the last month, you can't argue. The guy just looks completely lost. Is it fatigue? Is it the system? He was signed as a right back for Eric Ten Hag. Where is his position at in this team? Because he's a little too careless on the ball, and he's given it away many, many times around his own box, trying to dribble out of trouble. I don't really know if he's better than Ahmad on that right wing spot. So it's interesting to see. What we got here? Let me catch up to you guys. Bandomac, I never even watched it or the highlights. Well, I kind of wish if I can go back in time, I probably would choose not to do that. It was so bad. I was on a virtual call with Dylan, who hopefully will be joining me tomorrow on the stream. And he and I were just like, it was just so bad. I just kept saying, like, this is shit. We're so bad. And yeah, like Danny says, it's better off, man. You probably saved yourself an hour and a half of just fucking headache. Like I said the other day, it was like getting dick punched by Wolverine, man. Rasta stocks. Our next 2 games, we're not winning. I hate to say it. Our main rival is going to destroy us. Yeah, we are living in a time, Rasta, where we could be relegated and Liverpool could win the league in the same exact season. So just let that marinate for a little bit. Danny, right center back for Mizraoui. He looks good. Wingback role, not for him. I struggle. I don't mind him at right center back. I actually think in this system, that's probably his better spot. The problem with him in that spot is he has to stop trying to carry the ball through opponents on the edge of his own box, across his own box. Like, take it wide, take it up the pitch. Don't try to drive through the middle. It's so frustrating. Chow View, good to see you. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. Happy New Year. Would you take United relegated and force Glazers to sell the club? It's a good answer. It's a good question. Everybody let Chow know what you think in the chat. Would you take relegation if it was for certain right now that the Glazers would leave? And you guys let us know what you think here. Maybe I'll put it in. Maybe I'll put a poll and you guys can answer. Hold on a second. Bear with me. Boom. Jump on it. Right on. Danny's not wasting any time. So Casemiro, Eriksson completely run through. Dallo ineffective again. He was getting high up the pitch, but the problem with Dallo is not his ability to get high up the pitch. The problem is when he's up there, whatever he chooses to do is usually bad. Final ball, bad. He'll stop, pass it backwards. That's just the problem with Dallo. Højlund, not as involved as I would have liked, despite him trying to make some runs. Again, Højlund had the fewest touches of any player. It was the same as the other day. Remember, he's just not getting the ball enough. He had that chance, like Danny said, but again, his poor first touch takes it wide, and he gets off a shot, forced a save, but it was just wide. Licha, very, very bad. Not as great, not his best decision, not his best performance. I mean, Zirkzee, okay, got to preface this. All right, Zirkzee was bad. He's looked bad for a while. I don't think he's it. But when he came off as a 32nd minute sub because he was struggling, and it was a much needed decision because he was slow to everything. He was poor on the ball. But when he came off and went down to the touchline all the way down to the tunnel, like the boos and the sarcastic jeers he was getting, like that's disgraceful. Gary Neville said it too. I don't normally agree with everything Gary Neville says, but I agree with him on that one. I do feel for Zirkzee, and he did deserve it. He shouldn't have been playing, honestly. And I honestly don't even know if he'll be here in February. But the fans were a disgrace there. And I saw there were people arguing in the stands. I saw people on social media saying like how they were like the United fans were going in on each other because some of them were happy to boo him and others were like not having it. And some of those people that weren't having it just left because they were so disgusted with the behavior of the other fans. And I agree with that. That was disgusting. We should never boo our players. I don't care how bad they're doing. Vishwa, I would take relegation with a proper plan to build the team is in place. Well, we do have a proper plan. It's not going to happen overnight because the Ineos have not been here a whole lot, like of many months. They have a lot to go through. That's part of the plan, right? So you guys are 100%. Everyone is 100% taking relegation right now if it meant the Glazers left. Interesting. I'm going to end the poll there. Wow. I go back and forth on that kind of thing because I don't ever want to be relegated. It would be interesting to see some Manchester derbies in championship next season, though. Who else here? Garnacho, not great. His poor form has continued. He came on as a sub. He lost the ball several times simply because he's holding on to it too long, not really making the decision, and just getting out-muscled. Is that him being selfish? Is he trying to take responsibility for the situation, trying to get us the goal and carrying that responsibility? Or is it just a lack of confidence, not really feeling too comfortable what to do with it, and he's getting caught in 2 or 3, 4 minds? But again, nobody was good on the day. I thought maybe Kabi Mainu was probably the best player on the pitch. He looked a lot better than he has recently, right? As soon as he came on for Xerxes, he brought energy. He was fighting for everything. He was controlling things. 100% of his aerial duels, 96% pass accuracy. His long ball actually was great. Eight recoveries, 7 defensive actions, 6 passes in the final third, and he created 1 chance. Kabi was probably the best player on the day, but by the time he came on, the game was already gone. 2-0 down already at the half hour in. Like, the game's over, man. It's freaking done. Vishwa says, we need experienced number 9 to protect Xerxes and Hoyland. I've been saying that for a while. We need someone who's older. That was the plan when we got Hoyland, was to get Hoyland and an experienced striker as well. Hoyland was never meant to be the number 9, leading the line. Big up, Darkro. Good to see you, my friend. We were just kind of recapping here a little bit. Rasta Sox. If we don't beat Southampton, yes, I'm concerned about relegation. If we don't beat Southampton, then my bad luck is legit a thing, because I'll be there for Southampton. I'll be there for the Brighton match. I'm leaving in a couple weeks with my boy Justin. Last time I went, we struggled. We lost both games when I was there last season. We lost to Crystal Palace and Galatasaray. If we lose to Southampton and Brighton, Salford and the FA Youth Cup, I better not bring my bad luck there either, because if I bring my bad luck, my bad juju to the FA Youth Cup, because I'll be at that match as well, I'm gonna be frustrated. I'm just gonna leave. It's gonna be frustrating, man. Vishwa, yeah, at the moment I'm more concerned of Southampton match than Liverpool. Yeah, Southampton. Have you got the new manager yet at Southampton? I haven't even paid attention. Box jumping in. Good to see you, Box. How are you, my friend? We were just going through a little bit of a recap of the individuals and the performance. I'm going to jump into Amorim's press conference right now and some of what his major talking points were. So let me put these on the screen for you guys. He was asked a lot, Amorim, about changing system and if he needs to adjust and everything based on the players, based on them being bought for a different system, things like that. So a lot of the answers have to do with that. And this is what Amorim had to say. He said, I'm going to change that system. I'm going to change for that system that I don't believe to change things to win games. It doesn't make sense. So I have to teach what I know, and that is my focus, and I believe in that. He says, I have to sell my idea. If I'm going to change all the time, it's going to be even worse. I have to sell my idea. I don't have another one. If I change the system completely, I don't know if I'm nearer to a win. If I do that and continue to lose, and it's worse. Basically, he's saying, like what he said the other day, like, it's going to suffer, but if we just change things to accommodate, to do what we've been doing, which also hasn't worked, the process is gonna take even longer. We have to start to implement the new system now, or else it's never gonna get better. It says, if you start changing because of the results, it's the end for any coach. I was hired because of my idea. Again, he says, I'm responsible. I don't like to arrive here and make excuses. I think people are tired of excuses in this club. Sometimes I talk about relegation because of that. I think our club needs a shock, and we have to understand that. Like, it's the amount of crap that this guy inherited, the amount of crap that Ineos inherited, the amount of crap that is just going on at the club. You have to start somewhere with a proper rebuild. And right now it's starting with the coach and the tactics. That's where we're starting right now. And then Ineos are handling their budget stuff. I went through that very quickly, but it was just kind of the gist. The whole press conference alone was kind of boring. Darko, we have to play for a point now. Fill the midfield with 2 CDMs. Honestly, Darko, Dan and I were saying this ahead of time. Like, and I don't think it's going to happen. But we need to go to like a 3-5-2 or like a 3-1, like 4-2 or something where we can set bodies in midfield right now, and just keep that in there. If the tens aren't really doing anything, then fill the body with midfields, win the ball, and get two fast attackers, and just find them. Casemiro can pick that pass. Eriksen can pick that pass. We saw yesterday, Kobe Mainoo's numbers, passes into the final third. He can pick that pass too. Stag it with a 3-1-4-2, 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it, and just put bodies in there. Basically make a wall, like a big mid block, and just let that be the thing. We're implementing the back three. We're still kind of the similar system. It's just it's less tens, more eights, and then we have another attacker. Because Højlund looks isolated. We need somebody else up there with Højlund to help, because it's so easy to mark Højlund out of the game when he's the only guy up there and we're not moving the ball. Box says Newcastle was a disaster all around. It was disgusting. Lionhearts, welcome, my friend. How are you? Hey, Sean, and all you Reds. Yes, we are just chatting about the match. Went through a little bit of the post-match press highlights. A lot of talk was just about implementing the system and whether or not Amorim wants to change it. And he says, no, you can't change it based on results. That's the end for any manager. We have to keep going. Box says, I understand what Amorim is saying. If you don't make the changes now, it will be rinse and repeat of the last 12 years. Yeah, and we can't go back to the old system because the old system wasn't working. That's why Amorim is here in the first place, right? Lionheart says, this coach knows the deal. He knows the deal, but the dude is just literally in a full squat for 90 minutes. The guy is getting that core workout. His calves are burning. His ACLs are probably stretched to the max right now. The dude is in a full-on squat with his head in his hands for 90 minutes, man. It's such a freaking shame. Darko says, I blame Amorim. He should take responsibility for all, as he himself came halfway through the season. That's a bit harsh, in my opinion. I don't know, because you kind of contradicted yourself a little bit there, Darko. You can't. It's harsh to blame him if he came halfway through the season. He had no preseason. He's not really getting time to train. He got no opportunity to see how any of these players operate, and none of them are for his system. And quite frankly, he inherited a squad that was like this before he got here. When you add the whole extra layer of having to try to basically learn a whole new system and play a whole new system, it's harsh. But he also, to answer to respond to your comment, Amorim has also said on a couple times, like, he does take responsibility for it. He knows that he's got to find a way to make it work. Basically, every manager is going to take responsibility. Lionheart says, why would he change back to his system and formation that was already failing? Yeah, and again, it is. We said the other day, it's less the system and the tactics, and it's more the players. The players are the ones that are letting it down, because they're not in it. Their mentality is so weak. Box says, are some players downing tools already, or are they just reverting to type? Yeah, the players, it's a combination of we have a squad of 5 different manager players, a lot of whom aren't good enough. And then we've got like this new system now, and some of them just can't hang. And a fair few of them don't have the mentality needed to be resilient, to fight, to motivate themselves or each other, to hold themselves and each other accountable, to push and pull and do whatever you need to do to get over the line. Like, they don't have that. We don't have leaders in the dressing room anymore. And I've said that many, many times. But those are some of Amorim's thoughts. Let me talk about mine a little bit. And then I want to hear yours as well here. So, number one, something is off. There's something off about this club, and it's really difficult to pinpoint what that is. Whether you're talking about individual performances, or you're talking about the overall display, or the squad quality in general, it just wasn't good enough. Too slow, too sloppy, second to everything. And it's the easy day one stuff that's killing us. The cutbacks, the set pieces, the crosses into the box. Simple stuff that you practice from a young age. We can't make simple passes. We can't mark simply. We can't, all that stuff, decision making, all of it. It's just, that's what's killing us. Not all these players are bad. It's just that even the better ones now, like I said earlier, are all starting to play poorly too. They're all dropping to that level. The bad players and the players with weak mentalities are pulling people back. They're like a ball and chain around these guys' ankles, and they're not letting them progress. We weren't stellar prior to Amorim's arrival, but just like Man City this season, the drop off from that, to go from winning the FA Cup to just 14th right now, no wins in December. Like, the drop off is so stark and so noticeable and so just severe. Like, it's hard to pinpoint what the deal is. We just look clueless. We look worse now than we did ever under Ten Hag. This is the worst I've ever seen us play. I'm not pointing the finger at Amorim. I'm not blaming Amorim, but the fact remains we are playing worse, and I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, man. What are you guys saying here? Whoa, so many things. Vishwa, what can Amorim do? Our players cannot make the proper and short, long passes. These are professional and national team players. Some of them Champions League winners. Darko says, Sean, the whole football world knew the condition at Man United when it came to players, owners, and the state of the club. Yeah, we did. We all knew it. I hope that Amorim had some idea, but none of it was up to like his responsibility to come in and plan for that. He came in and he's trying to do what he's got to do. Bandamag, they couldn't do what Ten Hag wanted, and now they can't do what Amorim wants. The players have no resilience whatsoever. Box says 100% bang on the money. Something is off. There's something. I said the same thing about City. Something's off. Like, City can't go from what they've done to where they are now without there being something behind the scenes, something that we don't know about that's going on. I'm not trying to be conspiracy, but you can't pinpoint a single reason. Lionheart, I believe he keeps changing the starting 11 and the back three during the match because the players don't have time on the training pitch. He's using the games for all the players to adapt. Yeah, we talked about that the other week too, and whether or not that's what he's doing. And he kind of hints at that, right? When he talks about, like, no time to train, we're trying to figure things out on the pitch. Like, I get it, but we could have gotten to a core starting 11, a strongest starting 11 sooner, and maybe stopped rotating. There were those first, 3 or 4 matches, we rotated like 5 or 6 players every match. That's difficult to get into. It's so difficult. Block says the basics are AWOL. The confidence is the lowest I've seen. It's true, man. Like, just the simple stuff. Like I said, the simple stuff is and it's been like that since last year. Again, this isn't Amorim. The reason that we were knocked out of the Champions League, aside from like Onana's couple of his mistakes, is the simple cutbacks. How many cutback goals did we concede last year in the league and the Champions League? How many set piece corners have we conceded? How many, like yesterday, both goals, simple crosses, because no one's doing the simple pressure on the man with the ball, and no one's barely even jumping. Maguire doesn't jump. He's caught in no man's land. Licha, for some reason, is marking Joe Linton, who's got like a foot on him. I don't get what that was. Like, it's just simple stuff. And nobody's communicating. The simplest little things. Darko is probably off. Oh, talking about Lucky Sin. Danny B, if Ineos don't back him in January, it's on them. Ineos, they have a lot. We're going to talk about Ineos in a second here. Box says it's noticeable that even the newer players are suffering now as well. Maz, Delit, Ahmad. Delit's been gone for a couple games, and you can tell that he was a little sick. He's been sick. Ahmad, like I said, Ahmad Mizrawi's starting to dip too, whether that's fatigue, whether that's Ahmad not being played in his best position. Again, I couldn't tell you. We could speculate all we want to, but Licha had a horrible performance. Did the armband put too much pressure on him to do a little too much? Was that like an extra layer of something to focus on that he just couldn't hang? Because there were times where he was too aggressive, times where he wasn't aggressive enough. It was just like the basics of what the triggers were, when to move up, when to stay back. And then like I said, there's so many instances of him just standing, marking nobody as the game was kind of being played in midfield. Like, you can go back and find, what are you doing? His drop off has been shocking to witness, because he wasn't bad in his first season. We were all excited. I was excited. The injuries got to him, and now he just looks like he's becoming like a Marcus Rojo, like light, basically, just all passion, not a whole lot of football IQ in the key moments. And the problem is that it wasn't like this his first season. He was impeccable the first season, and that's my point. It's not that these players are bad. Mizrawi's not bad. Ahmad's not bad. Licha's not bad. It's that all of a sudden they are, and I don't understand why. Watching this match, I mean, it's clear as day that the issues are a lot deeper than a simple case of player quality. What I saw yesterday, aside from a select few, was just a squad completely devoid of any self-belief or ideas or any semblance of the ability to back themselves in the moment. No confidence. Even when Newcastle made changes early in the second half, which which is really the only reason we started getting chances. We never looked like we were going to turn it around because the players just looked like blank stares on their faces, just chasing shadows. It was just ridiculous to watch. These players aren't fit to wear the shirt, period. And again, that's not because of the quality. You don't have to be the best player, like technically skilled. Gary Neville will say himself, he wasn't the best player, but what Gary Neville had that these players don't, and what makes these players unfit to wear the shirt, what Gary Neville had is 100% elite mentality. Your Wayne Rooney's, your Roy Keane's, your Cristiano Ronaldo's, elite mentality. Sergio Ramos, elite mentality. None of these players have it. They're weak. It's getting worse. I'm a mental health professional. I would pay money to them just to sit down with each of them for an hour to figure out what's going on and just talk. Because I have to know what is going on, man. Lionheart says, if he doesn't rotate them, then the subs won't know what to do and won't have an impact, in my opinion. And then we gave ourselves a little bit of a break with getting knocked out of the cup, right? We've got a couple of weeks where we're going to have some time, but it's just the morale is going to take a dip too this week, so be prepared for that. Vishwa, but when he was heavily rotated to the 11, they looked like buying into his ideas. Now we can name 7 or 8 players out of the 11, and they look disconnected. Yeah, I just don't get it. I really don't. Danny says he needs to go back to what he done at the start. Winger at right wing back or left wing back, and a regular fullback with the CV so they can be more familiar dropping back into a back four. The line will be more organized. And that's typically how he does it. It's usually they're wing backs on paper, but usually one of them, like at Sporting, one of them was like a winger and the other one was a fullback. And so on paper it looks lopsided, but it's just the way he likes to play. But you guys let me know. I'm going to go on to my next point because while we're talking about Amorim here, number 2, no answers from Amorim. And I've got some hard questions I want to ask you guys. Now, let me preface this by saying these questions aren't me saying that like I'm Amorim out, that I have Amorim out. These are questions that I feel like we need to start getting to a point where we can be comfortable kind of having a discussion about, because questions like, at what point do we demand more from him regarding his in-game management? Because it has to be more than just making simple substitutions. At what point does the lack of quality in the squad stop being a free pass? At what point do we have to start? Because you guys, we all went in on Ten Hag for we need to see something. We need to see something. We know the players are crap, but we need to see something. We're fine with it as long as we see a style of play. I'm not hearing a lot of people online being fine with the fact of relegation, even though we see a style of play. At what point are we going to have to stick on something? At what point does the no time to train go from a valid, legitimate reason to, when are we going to get tired of that? At what point do we need to see him do something to change? Because he's squatting on the touchline for 90 minutes, watching the calamity unfold in front of him. To his credit, he took off Xerxes early yesterday, and we can praise that. We can praise making those changes rather than waiting too long to do so, but it was too late. And again, kind of like the Ineos stuff with Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth, at what point does reacting to these decisions so quickly start to turn a corner and become, well, he got it wrong from the get-go? The same way we can question those other decisions. I'm not saying anything definitively about Amorim. I want to know what you guys think when it comes to when is that grace period over? When are you going to have to start seeing more regarding some of that in-game management, team selection, whatnot? Where's the line between sticking to a system and being flexible on the day, given the available players of the opposition tactics? Like I already talked about 3-5-2, like a 3-1-4-2 kind of thing. At what point do you say, look, in Newcastle have a big midfield. They like to stack that midfield. I'm out my best midfielder. Bruno's gone. Maybe I just need to put bodies in midfield and just try to get this ball forward. Like at what point does that maybe become the thing? It's not changing the system. It's not abandoning the principles. It's just working with what you need. Danny said it's still his system, but tweaked a little. Yeah, it is. And I think you don't need to make wholesale changes that are going to send Robbie Savage into an I told you so rage. You just need to be like, this is what we have and this is what I have to do. It's still my system. And he also has played that like 3-1-4-2 at Sporting in the past, so he can do it. Lionheart's Ahmad looks better in the wingback. Yeah, I agree. He does look better in the wingback. We've tried him in the 10. Obviously, on the day, it wasn't working, and we made some changes. It is what it is, but I still prefer him in that wingback role because he's one of the only players who can get the ball forward, and Mizraoui just not getting it forward very much. Maz looks better in the back three. Like I said, I just need Mizraoui to stop trying to dribble around his box and out of trouble and just either pass it forward or run forward instead of running across the box. It doesn't make any sense to me. Box says, I wonder what Amorim really thinks about all the about United and the job now. We can all have our thoughts from the outside, but don't know what it's really like until you're there. I bet Amorim feels like now. He's probably like he's probably wondering, like, is this all a dream? Can I just wake up tomorrow and like It's a Wonderful Life and just like a guardian angel is just like, just kidding. It was all a dream. You're still at Portugal. You're fine. Dark Rose says, Sean, things never worked for Liverpool in 30 years. They had the best players and managers, but still weren't successful. And then did great with first-time managers in the Premier League. It's all about time, Sean. I mean, the difference between Liverpool and like what Klopp did is that Klopp was a structure, a culture, a plan signing. They didn't. What the difference between every other team and what United have done since Friggy retired is that the other teams stuck with the managers because they had a plan, and the manager was a part of that plan. The plan wasn't based on the manager. So where we've just chopped and changed every single couple of years because we sacked someone, Liverpool set out, this is how we want to start playing. This is what we want to do with the club. What manager suits that idea, that culture? Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was a Moneyball signing for Liverpool, and so was Arne Slot, which is why Arne Slot comes in, and it seems like everything's fitting just fine because very similar tactics. Liverpool are playing very, very similar to what they have done. That's what happens when you have a properly run club. We just haven't had that. We might now start to have it, but we're still not going to know because it was literally first summer of Ineos being here, and that's it. We need to be patient as far as that concerned. But I do understand what you're saying, Darkrow. Darkrow says, when time is bad, then even a dog can bite you while you're sitting on a camel. I mean, if I got a dog who can reach me while I'm on top of a camel, that's a big-ass dog. But I hear you, man. Oh, shit. Lionheart says, and Dallo should be left back in the team bus. Yeah, Dallo, it's not, again, what are the options? It's either Dallo, Anthony, or Malacia, or you put Mizraoui on the left. Danny says he used to be Shervin Wings at camp. I mean, if I've read earlier that Real Madrid have reached out to Liverpool to try to get Trent in January, and they rejected him. If they want to come get Dallo, they're more than welcome to have Dallo right now. Jules, good to see you, my friend. How are you doing? We are just kind of going through some points right here. I am talking about Amorim at the moment, so but big up. Goals, everybody's jumping in. Good to see everybody. Goals for George says, personally, I give Amorim 10 games to see something. I backed Ten Hag and hated the way he was hounded out and blamed for everything. I cannot believe the zero chemistry between players who have 3 seasons. I don't get that at all, man. Like I said in my first point, something's off. It's hard to pinpoint. The drop-off is shocking and frustrating and so stark and noticeable. Like, it's like Man City's drop-off. Like, I don't know what happened. I really don't. Even the good players, like I said, are being dragged down to the sub-players level. Vishwa, Amorim time, depending on what Ineos' idea of rebuild is. Maybe this is the storm he warned. Oh, this is definitely the storm he warned about. I don't think any of us anticipated it being this bad. I thought we maybe were hoping for a couple more draws or at the worst. Jules says selection was horrible last night, but this wasn't a one-off performance. And like I said to start, it wasn't a surprising result. Honestly, it went about as well as we thought it was going to be. Simple crosses into the box, no pressure on the man, no one really trying to get rid of that ball into the box. Carbon copy goals. Literally, they were both the same exact goal. In terms of this, though, like what Jules saying, on this match, I do feel like Amorim did make some mistakes, again, which was evident by that decision to hook Xerxes so early. Casemiro and Eriksen in the pivot, not a good call. I wouldn't have done that. We've seen that before in the past. Moving Eriksen to the 10, bringing on Menu was a positive change, and it impacted the match, and that was the right call, but it came too late, and you shouldn't have had to make that call in the first place. Damage was done at that point. Game was over. Bad team selection on the day. And I know he's trying to see if what's going to work and experimenting, but you can't afford to do that. You just can't. You can keep putting out your strongest 11, put them in their best positions, and then you can experiment after you get a little breathing room. You can't do it in reverse. This is why we're in the situation we're in. I mean, the game honestly was over 3 minutes in, so it's not like that first goal went in and it was like, well, here we go again, right? Competent, quality, resilient players should be able to do something with 87 minutes left in the match after their first goal went in, but I just don't see that in this squad. Not at any point in time. after we conceded that first goal that I think we were going to win. I didn't think we were going to win going into the match. The simplicity of that first goal and the sheer lack of faith that I have in this squad, again, already had me thinking the game was over. And he can't change to a different tactic now. He can't change back to a 4-2-3-1. I know people are saying, like, just play 4 at the back. You don't need to play 4 at the back. I think we need to be a little bit quicker to move the ball out of the back. And I think that there are times, like I said, maybe a 3-5-2 would have been a better option right now. Maybe we need to stop trying to play players in not their best positions. But he can't just change the system altogether just to get results. It's going to be a huge setback, like he said, like we've talked about. We just need better players. We need players who are just at the bare minimum, like good footballers. Maybe have a little bit of physicality, maybe have some energy, some fight in them. Like, it's not asking much. You can go down to the championship and close your eyes, throw a rock, and hit 10 of them that have so much more mentality than anyone in this squad. And we need to find a way to get rid of some of these players. Do you guys remember, and here's another question I had for you regarding the Rashford. I want to go back to the Rashford thing 1 second. Do you remember what a lot of people said about Ten Hag when he exiled Sancho and the results dipped? Now, I'm not saying there's a causation here, because there's a correlation though. We drop Rashford and the results dip. A lot of the talk about that was the rest of the squad didn't like the way Sancho was being treated. There was all that speculation. Do you think there's a chance that something similar is going on right now with the Rashford situation? That maybe there's a correlation between when we saw this stark drop off after Amorim arrived and when Rashford was dropped. Because there's a chance that players are not happy with that decision, the way that he's been treated by Amorim. It's the same players that were here for Sancho. So they've done this already once, if it's true. So it stands to reason, again, if it's true, then they would do it again. What do you guys think about that? Jules says, Eriksen and Casemiro partnership in midfield has a horrendous record. They last won a game against top 6 opposition back in May 2023. Yeah, it's just too slow. Like I said, a combined age of 64, neither of whom are known for being quick to get about the pitch anyway. So it just was a poor decision, in my opinion. Bach says, will Amorim pull out the Evans wild card for the Anfield trip that worked last year? I had Evans starting this one personally, because I didn't see a whole lot from Harry Maguire in the last time out. I think Evans could have probably done a little better for that first goal for sure, because Maguire he's not even doing anything. He's just standing in the middle of space, not jumping, not knowing what to do. He's not aware of what's going on around him. No one's talking to each other. It's just, I'm going to work myself up. Lionheart says, I think Rashford will be leaving tomorrow. It's strange that yesterday was the day to be back in the matchday squad. The fact that he wasn't used as a sub says a lot for me. Yeah, I just don't see the point of it. Like, I'm not saying that it makes Amorim look weak. I'm just curious about it. And again, my question is, do you think the players are happy with the way that Rashford's been put out of the squad? Lionheart says, perhaps he was given his opportunity to say goodbye. Well, he didn't get his chance, did he? He was in the dugout the whole time. Goals for George. Did you see Casemiro berating Manu after he gave him a good pass and he shot it off target? I think Casemiro may be a bad influence and needs to go. Maybe he was poor. Was he berating him, or was he? To me, it looked like he was just giving Manu an explanation for why he missed the shot. And I think the explanation was maybe the ball was. I think it was either too hard or it was like caught a bobble or something. Casemiro should have done better. A Champions League winner and one of the best defensive midfielders in the world in his prime should be doing better with that. But it didn't look to me anyway like he was berating him. It looked like he was just saying, "Oh, it wasn't a great pass" or something. I don't know. But if Casemiro is shifting the blame in a situation like that, then that's a problem. Jules says Rashford didn't look interested in being there. Sat on the bench. Poor. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, he didn't look. He looked like he was just. He almost looked like he was just there to be kind of a mascot, or just like, hey, this is your chance to come out and, just say bye to the fans. I almost feel like it was like, this is your chance to get a bird's eye view of something you could have a positive impact on, but you're choosing not to. You can watch this and you can feel badly about this, but this is your choice to not come in here and be able to do something about this. That's what I would be telling him if I was Amorim. Like, this is your fault. You're not playing. Like, we can get to work, man. I'm happy to work with you. We can get to work right now, but you don't want to be here, and you're not showing me that you want to be here in training, in this interview, whatever. You watch this, you feel bad for your teammates, and you take that responsibility. But Rashford doesn't seem like he wants it. Vishwa, the team put in a shift in the Derby win and did their best against Spurs, but the media coverage was all about Rashford, and none of the players got their media limelight. Maybe this impacted them mentally. Maybe they're not happy with just Rashford kind of unnecessarily creating, this kind of situation. Thankfully, Amorim was only asked like one question about Rashford, and he kind of, and like as opposed to like the dozen that he's usually been asked, but it was just so weird. Most of the questions in the presser were about changing the system. I was like, why? Why would he do that? And Jules says, yeah, I saw a video of that, the Casemiro thing. All right, I'm going to move on to my number 3 here. What next? Looking forward. When will things turn around? Will things turn around? The performances have fallen off a cliff, and therefore so have the results. That's what's going to happen. The small points difference in the table between where we are in the table and top 4 is now regressing to the mean as more and more teams are starting to kind of fall into place. We're giving ourselves a bigger hill to climb. That points gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're giving ourselves a lot to do in terms of salvaging anything from the season. 4 losses in a row in all comps. 3 league matches on the bounce without scoring. 7 goals conceded, most of them due to just simple defensive errors. Haven't won a game in all comps since the Derby. 3 consecutive losses at home for the first time since 1979. And then we have Liverpool next and Arsenal in the FA Cup. Just shoot me in the head now, right? What's in store? What's next for a lot of the players now that January is here? Amorim has had time to see how these players perform in his system, or more importantly, how they don't perform, and several of them just don't fit. It doesn't help that of the ones that might fit, only a few of them are actually good enough to be here. And then again, what about Rashford? In the squad for the first time, didn't get any minutes. Could he have made an impact? He scored a brace in his last game for United against Everton. We've only scored twice in the 4 games since, so he scored the same number of goals in the 1 game he played than we have since he's not been in the squad. Amorim said it's not a statement. He's not trying to make a point leaving him out. Amorim just wants to win, but at the same time, I mean, he also said it wasn't a disciplinary thing, and I don't believe that whatsoever. Needless to say, we need goals. Whether or not you want to say we're missing Rashford's goals, it's anyone's guess, but we need goals. We need help. We need a striker. We need a number 10. We need those in January. There's no excuse if we don't. Like Danny said earlier, there's no excuse. We have to do something. We're not scoring. It's too early to tell whether or not Højlund's going to be good enough. He's too young, though, to be our only striker. I think we all know that. The problem is, when it comes to strengthening, Amorim he's literally said yesterday, we're not in a position to buy. We have to sell players. He said we don't have that possibility in January if we don't sell players. So you know the situation better than I am. It's not the case that I'm here and I can spend a lot of money changing all the team. You know the situation, so there's no point in talking about it. So he's like, you guys already know the situation. I'm not going to sit here and waste time. But he said, we can't buy unless we sell. Whether that's just him saving face, maybe that's him kind of being told, make it seem like we don't have money so we don't get our pants pulled down, or if we're just truly skint. It's anyone's guess. But I hope that we can get rid of some of these big earners who aren't delivering. I don't care about getting max value. I don't care about taking a loss. I want young, hungry, physical players who are on their first or second contracts who, if they join us, they'll be getting like 100, 125K a week. I want these players who are going to perform, who are going to be on that contract and say, I want to get to that 200, 250K mark. So I'm going to play like I deserve it. The more players like that you get, the more hungry you get, the more they're going to fight for it. We need fighters. We need leaders. We need strong mentality because we don't have it right now. What are you guys saying here in the chat here? Einhardt, Cass was putting in a high cross for Ahmad, who was against Dan Burns. Yeah, there's such a mismatch. I mean, honestly, Newcastle are like one of the biggest sides I've ever seen in terms of just physical size of their players. Dan Burns is the friggin' Dragonborn out here. Kind of remember Vestergaard? Where's that guy at now? He's another one who's just. I remember we had Dan James marking him in one match when he was at Leicester, and I was like, why? What is Dan James going to do marking Vestergaard? This is ridiculous. It looked like my dog trying to like jump on me when I've got a treat or something. Like, this doesn't make sense. Box says, worst month statistically since 1930. Awesome. Yes, I love that. I love reading that. Jeez. Goals for George says, have you heard of Scarlet Report? He does very insightful analysis of United games, and what he showed about the tactics yesterday and previous games was scary. Are you saying you watch other YouTubers? That hurts my feelings. No, I'm trying to remember if I've seen Scout. I've watched AJ analysis a lot because I'm not super big on like the analysis part, like the system and tactical stuff. I know a little bit. I can talk a little bit, but I don't go as in depth as some of those guys do. But I feel like Scarlet Report does sound familiar. There's just so much out there, and that's why that's why I'm so thankful you guys are hanging out with me, because there's so much United content out there. I don't watch all of it, and I'm not trying to bash. Like, I don't watch a ton of the United stand, mostly these days, because every time I turn on, he's just throwing a tantrum about not getting Qatari owners, and I can't hear that because he just sounds like a child. But it is what it is. Jules Steinhardt's, that was Casemiro's first touch. Yikes! Saw the analysis. Yeah, I'll have to go watch that when I'm done here. There's so much, and I've only got so much time in my day, and then I'm trying to prep these two as well. Like, there are a couple, as I'm like, if I get a break and I'm like playing FC25 or something, and I put something on my phone that I can listen to in the background, but it's hard now that I'm doing this to get time to watch as much as I used to. Goals for George says, personally, for comedic relief, I'm actually enjoying how the Eric Ten Hag out channels are arguing amongst themselves, and some saying it was better under Eric Ten Hag. Yeah, it's just funny. The goalposts move, people flip flop and stuff. This is what it is. There's nothing wrong with changing your opinion on something as new information happens. I wouldn't call that flip flop, but yeah, it is some people like who are the most ardent like Eric Ten Hag outers are now like, it's better. And you have to learn to filter out a lot of what you see online, because a lot of it is just reactionary, and a lot of it is just people, just even Gabby Agbanlahor, he doesn't actually believe a lot of what he says. He just does it to have this persona to stick out because it's popular to bash United. Then he says, Jarvis, Tactical Devils, and AJ Analysis. So yeah, I do like AJ Analysis a lot. Who's this other guy that my boy Nee put me onto earlier this season? I forget what the guy's name is now. It'll come to me. If you guys throw a couple more out there, I'll probably remember it. Lionheart says, as long as the Oshman rumors aren't true, I can't see how he would settle the dressing room. I obviously don't know him personally, but it seems like another prima donna. Yeah, it's hard. I didn't follow a whole lot of that. I feel like, as far as I remember, wasn't there like some sort of an agreement, like he'd be allowed to leave if a good offer came in, and then they didn't let him leave? And I read earlier, like somebody was claiming that there's a clause in the contract that like Napoli can recall him if a decent offer comes in, and then they can sell and he can leave Galatasaray. It's hard to know right now. Actually, obviously we're getting into silly season, so take anything you read with a grain of salt at this moment in time. Jules Solskjaer says, the decision to sack Solskjaer was madness. Are you just being a little self-serving here at this one? He was building something. A couple of poor months as a hangover from the Europa League final led to the sack. Yeah, I liked Ollie. I mean, he wasn't the most tactically like sound manager. I'm not saying he was a bad manager. I'm just, again, it's about what you prioritize in your manager. Do you prioritize like vibes, wins, man management, like a sterling CV? Everybody has a different preference. I just felt like with Ollie, it was all attack. I was really happy when he switched to like 3-5-2 in the Champions League at times, because it showed me a little more. But I think that there was something. He just seemed a little limited, is all. But I do feel like I do miss Ollie. I do love Ollie. He's a legend in my eyes. One of our most unappreciated, kind of underrated players of all time, in my opinion. And that final was not great. I don't blame Ollie for losing that final. We were without Maguire. And we held our own in that shootout. How many shots were taken? I can't remember how many shots. It was like 20 something. I don't remember, but it was just, we always seem to struggle against Spanish opposition, no matter who the manager is. So it is what it is. Box is at EO final sliding doors moment. Yeah. Silent Violence Forever says, thoughts on no January signings, bro? We'll see. I mean, it's not January yet. We could be surprised. We could see something. We need something in the final third, and we need something on the left-hand side, honestly. We need, whether that's a 10 or a 9 in the final third, Eric, because we need energy, we need physicality, we need some ideas, we need some threat up there. And we don't have anyone on that left-hand side. And you could argue we haven't really had quality on that left-hand side for years. I just don't think we have the money. So somebody's got to get sold, and it's got to be for a lot, and we need to do something. Nipan, Cherky, do something. Gutierrez has a 35 million euro release clause. Go get this guy right now. Jules says, agrees, Box. What could have been? He needed that trophy. Yeah, Ollie got us second, got us to a Europa League final. It's pretty good. Danny B says, McKenna was the brain and tactics back then. Yeah, McKenna seems to me like very similar tactics to Ollie. I have no, and obviously they play a very similar system to like what you typically would associate with classic United, just fast counterattacking, use the width, get the ball in the box kind of stuff, which I don't have a problem with necessarily. I also just want to have the confidence that my manager has a little bit more strings to the bow. And as far as in McKenna's case, I think he's a great manager. I need to see more. I remember when he was being linked to the job, like I need to see that he can keep Ipswich up first and foremost, and then we can talk in another couple of years. But he's not even 40 yet. The guy's younger than me, so silent violence forever. Big up the host in the chat. Respect from Trinidad and Tobago. Nice, man. I remember when you guys knocked the U.S. out of World Cup qualifiers a couple years back, man. Big up, though, for joining. We got people from Singapore, people from Malaysia, people from Trinidad and Tobago. Awesome. Appreciate you being here, man. Appreciate it. Hit that like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and you like getting involved. Lionheart's signing Ronaldo was his downfall for me. I don't think Ollie wanted to sign Ronaldo. I think that was a Glazer move 100%. Saw the opportunity, saw the marketability, and did it. It's hard to argue sometimes. Obviously, Ronaldo came back, scored a brace against Newcastle when he came back. I mean, the vibes were there. It was a lot of vibes back then. I don't like that phrase necessarily, but you can't deny that there was a lot of vibes going on there. Jules says Ronaldo should have been Declan Rice instead. Yeah, I think what hurts Ollie for me sometimes is some of the players. Like we got Ahmad, we got Palestri, and then we chased Sancho for so long. We got Dan James as well. Like we didn't need to spend the money on Sancho back then. Like Jules saying, we needed a defensive midfielder. It had been a while, and I think that Declan Rice would have been one of the top options there. Vishwa, if Amorim doesn't turn this around and Ineos goes wild and decide to sack him, I'd rather have Ollie back to the end of the season. Well, two things. I don't think Ineos are gonna sack Amorim. I think they probably would if we got relegated, but I don't think they're gonna sack Amorim. And I would lose a little bit of respect for Ollie as a manager if he came back again after being sacked. Kind of like what didn't Lampard do that at Chelsea? Like Ollie, he's fine. Just go out the way you went out. You're fine. Lionheart says, in Cavani's downfall. Yeah, thankfully, I mean, and Danny agrees with you, Jules. Yeah, the thing with Ronaldo is, again, Ronaldo actually made money. We paid, 30-something million? So a lot of people will talk about, like, they want shirt sellers. Shirt sellers is a myth. In Ronaldo's case, he was the outlier. Ronaldo sold so many shirts when he came back that he actually made back what we paid for him. That never happens. The markup on shirts is not great. Clubs are already paid by the shirt makers, the kit makers, for the thing. Shirt sellers is a myth. Kieran Maguire has written a lot of stuff about it. But in Ronaldo's case, he was the outlier. Box says, do you think there's a vocal presence in the squad at the moment in the dressing room? Like last night, a picture of Cena silence. No, because we don't have leaders. We haven't had leaders in this dressing room, like true leaders, since Nemanja Matic left, in my opinion. I mean, I think De Ligt can be that, but he's still so new. I don't know if he's ready to kind of take it upon himself to do that, if that makes sense. Goals for George. Napoli just deceived Osimhen and did the same thing to a highly rated African defender they had before Osimhen and priced him out of good transfers till he was in decline. You're talking about Koulibaly? Box says Rooney is available now. Rooney needs to just, I don't know. Rooney needs to take a break from management for a little bit because it doesn't seem to be working. Just because you're a good player, there's no guarantee you're going to be a good manager. That's just statistically a fact. Lionheart says, I feel for Rooney and Southgate. Yeah, Rooney. Yeah, I do feel for him, but maybe take a year off like Rude did. Maybe go be an assistant somewhere and just learn a little bit more before you dive right in, if that makes sense. I think Rude did very, very well the way he chose things. George says, Ollie was mediocre and let the lunatics run the asylum, and then when he apologized to Rashford, I lost respect for him. Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of decisions that were taken out of Ollie's hands. And that even happened at Cardiff. People like to go in on, I'm forgetting Cardiff relegated. Cardiff, remember, he came in mid-season. Cardiff were pretty much already relegated at that point. You could have put anybody in there and nobody would have probably saved that club that season. And he even said after the fact, like, I was told I had to start certain players. Like, he didn't have a choice. If stuff like that happens at Cardiff, you can bet your ass it happens at a club like United. Jules, that was a tough job at Plymouth for Rooney. He still has time to come good, but big pressure on his next club selection. He should have just stayed in the MLS or something. I mean, and this goes to show you, management's not easy. There's a lot of pressure, but I think I think I've seen too many of these young coaches, these ex-players, jump too soon into these bigger jobs. Like, I don't know what Lampard was doing, taking the Chelsea job so quickly. I don't know what Steven Gerrard was doing, taking the Aston Villa job so quickly. Like, take your time. You're young. You're not even, these guys were, not even 40 yet, some of them. Like, just, you don't have to rush into it. Boxes. Plymouth is always a tough job. They're punching above their weight, even being in the championship. Yeah, not for every, Michael Carrick, who's doing decent things at Middlesbrough, for every Zidane who comes in, there's the Pirlos. Remember, Pirlo tried to manage Juventus. The guy didn't even really have badges yet. Tried to manage Juventus. You got to take your time. Box Sir Southgate. Yeah, I'm just running through the chats here to get caught up before I give my final thoughts. So feel free to get some more thoughts in. Lionhearts says, I think you should go to Scotland and manage just like Gerrard. Yeah, Scotland. Maybe, yeah, he could. Maybe do go to what other teams? Aberdeen, Celtic, Hearts. Go do something. Maybe go down in League Two or something. I think Rooney I think he likes to get a decent paycheck though. Box says, yep, was Gerrard's best stint at Rangers. Yeah. Leonard says, but isn't Rooney a Catholic? So that would put Rangers out of the running, and I don't see Rodgers going anywhere soon. I mean, the Catholic thing is interesting. If you watch Fergie's documentary, it was a big issue for him, like he and his wife's religious stances and managing at the time in Scotland and stuff. They actually got a lot of flack for that. If you guys ever watched that that documentary, the one that came out after he had the brain hemorrhage. Box says, go to Aberdeen. Box says, I saw Nesta got sacked last week at Monza. What a defender. I forgot all about Nesta. Lionheart says, Aberdeen are doing good stuff this year. They're getting rid of the manager. Man. This is the thing. I also don't like this modern football where managers you have to basically hit the ground running or you're just going to get sacked, which I don't get how some of these clubs stay in good financial standing because it costs so much money to sack managers. Like, we paid a lot to sack managers. That's also a big part of why our PSR hurts because, again, manager fees count towards the PSR stuff. So think of all the managers that we've sacked in the last decade. All of that still counts towards PSR, or really in this case against PSR. Happy New Year, Composed View. Thank you for stopping by. We're just wrapping up here. I'm going to do my final thoughts here in a second. Goals for George. I like how Fabregas is doing in Italy with Como. He had Henry as part owner, though. Yeah, Fabregas is trying to build a little something. They've got a player that I want to take a look at in a future scout report, a player that I think could be really good for us. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, but he used to be a Real Madrid player, plays in number 10. You guys can take guesses who that would be. I have a little mini scout report prepared for that at some point. Box says, I saw Fabregas has Dele Alli on trial. Yeah, I think he's just training. I think he was training with Everton, kind of like what Johnny Evans did last summer, and I think he's at Como now training with him. I feel for Dele Alli, man. That guy's been through a lot, and I think that it's hard to get over that stuff. A lot of stuff that Dele Alli went through, he went through as a child. Trauma stays with you. There's a good book called The Body Keeps the Score, all about trauma. It stays with you, and it's even when you're older. And this is why, you ignore anyone who says this player's rich. They shouldn't have anything to complain about, shouldn't have anything to be upset about. Just ignore that. Money doesn't just excuse you from having a body and a mind and emotions and thoughts and struggles. But yeah, Dele Alli, big up Dele Alli for being able to talk about it. And that's the big step, right? It's really cool that footballers now are being a little more open. They're destigmatizing mental health and stuff, and it's only opening doors for people to get help. Darko, I bought Sir Alex Ferguson's first autobiography at a mall in Dubai in 2001. Still have it. Wow, big up, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I got a couple of his books back here too. There's one somewhere. I have a lot. I'll do a video in the future. I'll go through some of my books that I think that you guys should check out, and I'll link them all in the descriptions and stuff. Bach says, I like that pot Spurs front four: Kane, Son, Eriksson, Ali. Yeah, Dele Alli was a monster for a couple seasons at Spurs. And then took a dip, and then Mourinho came in and he played really well for Mourinho. I remember that goal he scored against us that was just annoying as shit. But moving on to my final thoughts here. So, as far as United go, it's just too easy right now for the opposition, whoever we're playing, doesn't matter what league, what level, whatever, to get chances. Too easy to body us off the ball. Too easy for them, the opposition, to win 50-50s. Too easy for them to move the ball through our midfield. It's just too easy. We're easily the worst team in the league right now when it comes to performances, results, form, whatever you, mentality, quality, whatever you want to call it. We're the worst. Simple cross and a header puts Newcastle ahead, not even 4 matches in. I mean, no pressure on Gordon, who has hours to pick out Isak. De Ligt's not marking anybody. Maguire doesn't jump. Simplest chances, again. And can someone please explain to me that when it comes to defending balls into the box, how we're worse now with 3 center backs in the box than we were with just 2 center backs in the box? Because the math ain't mathin'. 3 is more than 2, right? Like, I'm not taking crazy pills. Like, I don't understand how we're worse with an extra center back when balls are put in the box than we were under 2. I don't get it. And like I said earlier, Amorim probably wishes this was all a dream, Biggie Small settings, like It's a Wonderful Life or something. But I mean, he left Champions League. He left a high-flying sporting club for this shit. He left a probably guaranteed another title in the Portuguese league to come to this shit, man. He arguably, you could say, he left City job to come to this shit. And so I'm wondering what he's thinking right now. Jules says, I was at MK Don's when Ali destroyed us. Oh, I remember that MK Don. I was watching that. I think I was watching it on my computer at my my grad school when I was there. I was in the library with headphones on watching it, and I was probably freaking a couple people out. We struggled in another League Cup. I think it was against Middlesbrough, I think, way back when, like 10 years ago, in another cup match. We went out on pens. We don't do well against these physical sides. That's another example. It doesn't take much. Lionhearts remembers that game. Yeah, the pain. Darko, Sean, would you take a 3-0 defeat at Anfield? No, I'd rather take a 3-0 win, but I don't think anyone wants a 3-0 defeat. I don't see us doing anything against Liverpool. They're just probably the best team in the league at the moment. You could argue maybe Chelsea are not too far behind. Yeah, Jukebox says, I remember watching that on TV. Yeah, who was that? Was that Louis van Gaal? I can't remember. Somebody remind me. But I mean, that's it. Oh, let me go. Wow, there's a lot more chat in here than I thought. Hold on a second, guys. Goes for George, but you don't think some players are using mental health as an excuse? Sports should be their escape and safe place when earning good money. Again, though, the money doesn't play into it because, if you take money out of it, you're still a human being with thoughts and emotions. And again, that's just the normal stuff that people like. Dele Alli went through some pretty traumatic stuff if you ever read about it, like drugs, sexual abuse, a lot of that stuff. That stuff stays with you. And looking at something as an escape is, if that's the goal, this is why, like, I work with a lot of guys who struggle with like pornography. It's an avoidance technique. It's an escape. But what all it does is just prolongs having to deal with the shit. They use it to not have to deal with other stuff. This is where a lot of addicts, like, why things get so bad. You have to learn how to be able to deal with this stuff. You have to process some of this stuff. So money, to me, doesn't make the difference. You can struggle with these things whether you're rich or poor. But I've also said many times, to answer your first point, some players are using mental health as an excuse. I think, for me, I feel like I see that a lot when it comes to the gambling stuff. I feel like it's way too easy for these players to get caught gambling and then be like, I've got a gambling addiction. Like, come on. I don't think you have a gambling addiction. I think you just got caught and you're trying to get out of it. But that's just me speculating. That's not me as a mental health professional. Again, nothing I say should be taken as professional advice. If you need help, call your local mental health professionals, please. Box says, it's crazy. Every time the balls go in the box, it feels like slow motion and stunned silent. I'm at the point where every time a ball goes in the box, I just assume we're going to concede. Nobody jumps. Nobody knows what's going on. Onana's rooted to the spot. Like, he's so bad in those situations. Jules says Kagawa, Welbeck, Pereira, Michael Keane, Chicharito. Michael Keane, I remember him. We've had a lot of young players come and go through here. Tyler Blackett, Patty McNair, Guillermo Varela. Remember that guy? Darko Sean. What would be 14th and struggling if Ruud van Nistelrooy was here? I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I wish I had the ability to look at an alternate timeline and see. We don't know. But at the end of the day, Ruud is not ready for a full-time job. Ruud was an interim. I wouldn't have wanted us to do another Solskjaer and give him the full-time job even after he did well. Because if it's not the plan moving forward, if it's not Ineos's number one choice, then we're just going to be right back in the same spot in a couple of years. Anderson, yeah. Blast from the past. Goals for George. Zonal marking is the issue. They need to go back to man marking. Yeah, we've been doing the zonal marking thing for a while, though, and it just doesn't work. And I don't like, and I said it the other day, and I saw someone else say it too. I think it was Stephen Housen said the same thing. And I did like the DiCaprio thing, like, like, don't put all your players in the box when you're defending a corner. Leave a couple of them out at the edge of the box, or even a little further out in case there's a deflection. Because now, not only does that open you up for an opportunity to counterattack if the ball goes out, but then now the team with the corner, the opposition, now has to put a couple players on those players, so they've got less players in the box. Like, it's not rocket science. Our set piece defending has been gash for years, though. Like, years. This has been like this for a long time. Liner says, the most frustrating thing for me last night is that I missed the darts for it. Oh, it was under Van Gaal. Yeah. Some of it, I'm getting old. Some of that stuff's starting to blur together back in like 2014, 2015, 2016 kind of seasons. A lot of that's starting to blur together for me. So what happens when you get old? So, Dark Crow, 3-0 is way much better than 7 or more. Yeah, but we also did draw, 0-0 as well last year. So it's like, I mean, if you want to deep it, Ten Hag is a better head-to-head against Jurgen Klopp when he joined United. So we can take that. People want to go on and on about the 7-0 like you get a trophy for it. We still finished above Liverpool that season, and we got a trophy, and that was Ten Hag's first season, and Klopp's like 8th. So I'm taking that W all day. Dark Crow, no reason for mental health to affect you if you're earning over. Well, that's just not true, Dark Crow. That's just not true. You're still a person. At the end of the day, you're still a person. I see clients who have a lot of money. I see clients who don't really have a lot of money, and they're all people at the end of the day. Money is not a cure for anything, just like buying. Like, it's just not. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to just, like, bash you or anything. I'm just saying, from my experience being a mental health professional and working with clients on a regular basis for the better part of the last decade, I can tell you, money does not just excuse you from having mental health struggles. Jules says, I like Varela. Yeah, I remember Varela. Lionhearts. Varela was decent for LVG when needed him. Who else was I just thinking about? Oh, Fosu Mensah. Y'all remember Fosu Mensah? Lionheart says, so was Williams for Ollie. Yeah, Williams. I remember him. Just, again, not everybody that comes through the academy is going to make it. It is what it is. Williams had the fight. He just didn't really have the skill for me. Fosu Mensah, McNair, Blackett, Borthwick Jackson. That was the other guy I was thinking of. Borthwick Jackson. There's a lot. Demi Mitchell. I remember Demi Mitchell. Man. Jules, we haven't defended set pieces since Fergie was here. It's as much about desire as anything. Yeah, and that's what I've said. That's why I think it's mental. It's not just about the ball getting in. It's nobody attacks the ball. And if they do jump, which they rarely do, they're jumping on the back foot. So that, again, indicative of the fact no one is taking charge. No one is attacking that ball. No one is looking at that ball and saying, I'm getting that ball the fuck out of here. It's not getting into my box. No, everyone's just waiting for either someone else to do something, or they're waiting for the situation to happen to them rather than exerting a little bit of willpower and a little bit of physicality on the situation itself. No one takes charge of those situations. It's freaking mental. Like I've said many times. You're spot on, Jules. Lionheart says, I was so fucking annoyed when Fosu left. Didn't he go to Leverkusen for a little bit? I'm trying to remember. I lose track of a lot of this stuff. Lionheart says, yeah, Darker, I agree with Sean. Mental health is no joke. It's not a joke, and it's being rich does grant you probably easier access to getting help, but it doesn't just excuse you from having trauma. Or it's like, if you have trauma when you're 6 years old, two people both 6 years old both have trauma, Like whether or not they grow up to be millionaires or not, they still have the trauma, and if it's not processed, they're still going to have the same struggles. It just is what it is. Social psychologists will tell you that two people who have gone through the same stuff or in the same situation will most likely have the same reactions and make the same decisions. It's just part of it. There's a really good book on social psych. I thought I had it back here someplace. I do not. Oh, it's up here. It's called The Social Animal. Really good social psychology book if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, The Body Keeps the Score is another one for anyone looking for trauma stuff, but that's getting a little nerdy. Sorry. Boxes. I remember hearing about Gomez, Shortire when they were in the youth teams. A lot of promise. They'd make the first 11. Whatever happened to Angel Gomez? We were talking about him a few months ago, and I feel like he got an injury. I haven't watched a whole lot of Lille, but Danny says, yeah, 100 Lionheart's trauma lives with you forever. It does. And it's not fun to dig it up. And it's a big part of why a lot of people don't end up getting help is they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to bring it up because it is painful. It really is. But I think you have to at some point or else it's just going to stay with you forever. Danny says, trauma every day of the week in Limerick City. Is that an Ireland joke? So that is pretty much my thoughts on the match. Danny says, always going through surgery, Angel Gomez. Well, that's him not going anywhere in January, isn't it? Maybe if he comes back in time for the summer and he still hasn't signed a contract, it's worth relooking at. But pretty much put that one in the swipe left pile for the moment. So that's my thoughts on that. I think tomorrow, don't forget to come back tomorrow because tomorrow Dylan is hopefully going to join me virtually, but we're going to be doing a New Year's resolutions video for Manchester United for 2025. What sort of, and you guys saw that I posted about this. I posted about it on Twitter as well because I want your thoughts. What would be your New Year's resolutions for Manchester United as we head into the new year? What kind of goals should Ruben Amorim, should the players, should Ineos even be setting as we go into this new year? So we're going to talk about that tomorrow afternoon, probably like around 2:30ish my time. So keep a lookout for that one as it goes up. If you want to make sure you don't miss out, hit the notification bell, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. But that is the plan for tomorrow as we got a couple days of breathing room. What we got here? Box has a question for everybody. What's one player you wished it worked out for at United? One player I wish... people are going to think I'm mad when I say this, but if you just look at it from the player and not like what happened, it would, for me, one of them has got to be Di Maria. Di Maria on paper was probably one of the best players we've signed in a long time, especially at that time, probably best post Fergie. It was one of those players you wish it would have worked out. It just didn't. If it would have worked out, can you imagine what could have happened back then if Di Maria had been just wanted to be here and hadn't been a snake and it would have just worked out? Like even from his numbers weren't even bad when he was here. I was so excited when we signed him, and then it just all went to shit. And I think again, this is why it's not just about player, it's not just about club, it's about manager and system. Right player, wrong manager. Di Maria was never going to work in a Louis van Gaal system. It just is what it is. Just like Donny van de Beek was probably never going to work in an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer system because he's a little too tactical on the ball and he's not just counterattack. It is what it is. Darko, Sean, when you visit Manchester, try to find the issue. I'll try. If I get attacked by a bunch of mice in the stadium, I'll let you know. Danny says, sell the Deadwood by the summer should be the goal. Well, get involved in that post. Go leave a comment on the post and be sure to stop by tomorrow afternoon because Dylan and I are going to go through some of our picks for that, and I want to hear yours. But so far, the general consensus has been literally clear the Deadwood, sell. Lionheart says sell, sell, sell. Sell hard. Yeah. So Lionheart says, to answer your question, Box, Lionheart says Kagawa was one he was bummed didn't work out. Mkhitaryan is probably another one for me that I wish would have worked out a little bit more. Box says, yep, Di Maria was a rare Madrid sale that still had peak years in him. Yeah, I think that was a great player when we signed him. He just didn't want to be here. Varane, Forlan, says Danny. Yeah, all of them good players. I think some people might argue Sancho. I didn't think at the time we should have spent that much on Sancho. I think we had enough wingers, but I think from what he was doing in Germany, I think a lot of people probably would have wished that would have worked out a little better, right? Buck says, imagine if Forlan clicked in England. Fireworks. Yeah. Sometimes, and that's not every signing works out. for any number of reasons, right? Lionheart says, or Nick Powell. On the Nick Powell note, I'm going to leave it there for you guys. Thank you guys. Poborski, remember him? There's been a lot. There have been a lot. I wish, part of me is really bummed about Donnie Van de Beek. I love Donnie Van de Beek. I really wish it would have worked out, but the more I talk about Donnie Van de Beek, the more upset I get. So thank you guys for stopping by. I do appreciate you guys getting involved. Just remember, I usually wait a day to do the match reactions, so we're all kind of had some opportunity to sleep on it. We're not all up in our feelings, but stop by tomorrow, please. We're going to do New Year's resolutions for Man United's for 2025. So look at the post that I put out there on the community tab. Get your thoughts in. Be sure to stop by tomorrow afternoon. Look out for the thumbnail for that one. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.